renters, not owners any longer, is simultaneously driving up the wealth of the typical person aged 55 and older. These are Canadian data. The typical person over 55 and older reports hundreds of thousands of additional wealth in their home by comparison with when my mom started out as a young woman. And then consider the 20% of homes that are most expensive in beautiful British Columbia, and the wealth goes off of the chart. So let's recap. Hard work doesn't pay off like it used to for a young person today by comparison with 4 decades ago.
Yes, it does.
Aging population is inadvertently, because we don't have this conversation, actually asking their kids and grandchildren to pay more toward them in taxation. And people like me are gaining more wealth while I sleep at home than from my 60-hour-a-week job at UBC, because my wealth of my own went up by a couple $100 grand last year, and I don't make that while working at UBC. That's a lemon that we've dealt to our society, which is disproportionately impacting a younger demographic and newcomers in the communities. But we can turn a lemon into lemonade. We can squeeze back and make it so, but we do need the help of people in this ride to imagine how we might change our communities in a few ways. One, we're going to need your help to increase supply. Supply into your communities, add density in the hope that we can actually price young people back in. We need to restrict some kinds of harmful demands. So those of us who actually own second homes and we prefer to rent it out as Airbnb rather than to someone who lives here, we're probably going to try to discourage you from that. And last but definitely not least, we need to rebalance how we treat taxation of earnings and wealth. And that's probably why some of you are in the room tonight to talk with me. Because I genuinely do believe we need to reduce taxation on earnings, make up for that by taxing unhealthy home values more and allowing it to be deferrable, all the while getting better investment for young and old alike. It would address 3 problems. One, it would stretch earnings a little bit further if we just taxed it a little bit less, and I show you young people's make less. And it would be one more policy signal to try and cool down home prices that have become unhealthy. To Reese's point, it would address the rising inequality that's being driven not so much by earnings these days, but by wealth, and home wealth is the major factor in that. And it would make sure that today's aging population doesn't leave unpaid bills for its medical care to its kids and grandchildren who it loves. Which means I'm in this room, probably unlike some of you, to say, government, I don't think you've actually gone far enough. When you tax homes only over $3 million, you're talking about 2% of homes. 2% of British Columbians live in homes over $3 million. It misses homes like mine that are now $1.7 million, and as I mentioned, went up a couple $100,000 in wealth last year, way more than I earned. And I'm a high earner in this society. If we consider a modest, deferrable tax on the 20% of homes that are most expensive, we can generate enough revenue to cut income taxes or taxes on earnings in a range of meaningful ways, while making sure we grew revenue enough to cater to the medical care needs of my mom and my grandmother, and your moms and your grandmothers. And we could do it in a way that would exempt certain kinds of buildings and purposeful rental and buildings under development so we could attract sufficient supply. Here's where I'll end. I'm pretty darn confident that we need to make this tax shift for BC to work for all generations. I've done a lot of trying to think through the evidence of the sort that Reese and others have been putting out. We may not have all the right answers, which is why our ask of government in the short term is to establish a tax shift commission. Kind of like the task force that exists on renting right now, which is bringing renters and landlords together. Can we not learn from people's current concerns about the speculation tax and the school tax, not least of which those are bad names for those taxes, they're inaccurate. Could we not give the public a better chance to weigh in on the tax shift? I think some of the frustration has been, hey, this has kind of caught me off guard. And last, maybe through that kind of task force, we can avoid some unintended consequences. But if you're just for the status quo, then you're not for a province that works for all generations. And at the beginning of tonight's, my remarks tonight, I saw there was common ground. We want that. We want hard work to pay off. We want people to expect them to work hard. And we don't want to leave unpaid bills to those who walk in our footsteps. That's why we need a bolder tax shift.